Oh, thank goodness. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken avoid losing 3 times in the 4-game season series to the San Jose Sharks, which, considering they've only won 20 games this season, and a tenth of those are already against the Kraken, even though the Kraken could use the losses right now, this is a game I'm glad they didn't. And besides, as far as the draft order is concerned, well, yes, the Kraken do end up dropping to the 6th spot after today. They did get helped a bit, even with the win that earlier in the day, 3 of the teams right around them in Boston, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh all won to keep the Kraken at least in pace with them. They do end up jumping the Flyers by 1 point, so they're right there with Boston and Philadelphia, and also now tied with Buffalo in points, though Buffalo has 2 more games to play than any of those teams do. For the Kraken, though, that can get dealt with some losses and a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way. This was really the last easy game of the season. I mean, Utah, the Kraken have played pretty well, and the Kings, they tend to play well, but the Kings are playing very well at this point in time. And yeah, it's going to be a tough stretch for the rest of the season for the Kraken, so they can get back to worrying about the draft then and make sure that they don't embarrass themselves on the season as a whole against this San Jose Sharks team. I mean, honestly, losing 2 of 4 is already a little bit embarrassing, but didn't embarrass themselves further after losing those back-to-back games against this Sharks team back when it would have mattered for them to get those points. Though with that being said, as we jump right into the game, with the 3 injuries from the last game for the Kraken all returning in Schwartz, Tolvanen, and Mahura, early on, the Kraken looked like they were more interested in that draft order than not embarrassing themselves for a 3rd time against the Sharks, as the Sharks were all over the Kraken, and it really was just a, well, continuing where he left off in Vancouver, sharp start to the game for Decord, who was fantastic all game long. The one that gets past him, as we'll see, not really his fault at all. Maybe a little bit as far as rebound control, but hardly on Decord. Either way, he keeps the Kraken from giving up the lead on a couple, maybe even a few occasions in the first 5 minutes as the Kraken kind of sleepwalk through it. Eventually, though, like a flip of a switch, they just are right back down the other way about 5 minutes in, and it doesn't take them long to get their first shot on goal, and when they do, it's in the back of the net off of a rush chance. It's the McCann line, or the, I guess, Stevenson line with McCann and Burakovsky on either side, the best line on the ice for the Kraken without a doubt in this game. And as Decord plays a puck well in the Kraken end of the ice, they all streak down the ice the other way, or at least Stevenson and McCann streak down the ice the other way, while Burakovsky broke his stick, so he had to go over to the bench, pick up a new one, and because of that, the Sharks just completely forgot about him as he gets behind the play. Decord gets the puck out to Mahura. Mahura throws it through the neutral zone and through the Kraken end of the ice to Burakovsky on the far blue line. He doesn't have quite a free breakaway, as one of the Sharks players is able to get back to at least keep him up against the boards, but he still gets the pass out to McCann, who is coming in pretty much alone with a Shark player in tow, so it's not like it's going to be all the time that he needs to take the shot, but he still has some space. Takes a split second to handle the pass from Burakovsky, but fires off the shot and buries it through the 5-hole, as Georgiev was very slow to get his pads to the ice. McCann puts it right under the pads and in to give the Kraken the 1-0 lead on their first shot of the game after being kind of dominated through the first 5.5 minutes. And thankfully, the Kraken aren't just one and done with that one goal, as for the next 4 minutes, they flip that right back around on the Sharks and completely control play over the next 4, and also just look really good while controlling the puck. They're moving the puck quickly, decisively, tape-to-tape passing, moving up and down the ice quickly, just great skating from the team, cycling well in the offensive end, and eventually it's just too much for the Sharks to handle. Yeah, part of it is because they are against the Sharks, so there's a little bit more time and space for them to utilize in transition and in the offensive end, but they used it very well. Again, crisp, clean, decisive passing quickly around, as McCann, taking the puck from down behind the San Jose net, comes up around the corner, drops it to Larson, who goes right back to where McCann came from, behind the net, before throwing a pass up to the low slot, where Burakovsky is wide open, and he buries the one-time shot into the far side. This time, no chance for Georgiev. Burakovsky is just left completely open to get that pass in about the most dangerous area he can be. He gets the shot off and makes no mistake, giving the Kraken the 2-0 lead. And for both McCann and Burakovsky, it's their second points of the game. For Burakovsky now, a goal and a primary assist. Also his 10th goal of the season. But then just as quickly as it came, the Kraken momentum disappears. They send the Sharks almost immediately to a power play after taking the 2-goal lead. The Sharks really only get one opportunity on that power play, but it is a pretty good opportunity. Decord with a fantastic save to keep the Kraken penalty kill going, which does eventually come to an end early, but not because the Sharks score, instead because they send a player of their own to the penalty box for about 30 seconds, maybe even a little bit less than that, of 4-on-4. Then the Kraken get a power play that they just don't do anything with whatsoever. And then over the rest of the first period, well, the Sharks maintain momentum, get a couple more pretty good shots on Decord that he comes up with a couple more very good saves. But one of those very good saves ends up bouncing off of his pad right out to both Dunn and Larson, who are in front of the net right at the top of the crease. But somehow, with both of them there and easily able to reach out and get the puck, it's Will Smith who gets his stick on it first and just shoves it into the empty net behind Decord to bring the Sharks back to within 1. Now, all 3 sticks did arrive there at about the same time, and it looked like for a second that Larson might have accidentally shot this puck into the net, but it is Smith's stick who gets to it before Larson can quite get his stick in front of the puck. And it also doesn't help that Dunn did get tripped to the ice by Smith incidentally before the puck was shot on Decord, and that could have easily been a tripping call or interference, but they don't call it. The Sharks get one back. The Kraken, thanks in large part again to Decord, do survive the rest of the first period to get to the first intermission, maintaining that 2-1 lead. But then we head to the second period, which it more and more seems like it's just mirroring Burakovsky's season. As for the vast majority of the season, it was pretty much downright terrible, at least very bad. And then kind of a week to 2 weeks after the trade deadline, all of a sudden it's one of the best things the Kraken have going for them. And this was no exception, as they completely control play for the entire second period and really convert it on the scoreboard. Right from puck drop, the Kraken are all over the Sharks, getting chance after chance on Georgiev. The Sharks looking pretty sloppy and in a lot of ways like their 20-win record that they currently have. Eventually, the Kraken are able to extend the lead after another Sharks power play that comes to an end early, though this time a lot earlier. It's just like 20 seconds into it before they take a penalty to go back to 4-on-4. Then the Kraken get a sliver of power play that, I mean, again, it's this time it's just it's a sliver of power play, so it's not like it really had that much of a chance to go anywhere. But either way, the Kraken don't do anything with that 15 to 20 seconds of power play. Not long after which, though, they do end up finally extending the lead. And it comes off of a shot from well out up by the blue line in the Kraken end from the Sharks that goes well wide of the net, off the end boards, around the corner, and up along the boards, where eventually it gets to a Sharks player first, but he breaks his stick as he goes to handle it, so Chandler Stevenson ends up with it. The Kraken with the 2-on-1 break the other way, which is played pretty well by the lone defenseman back. He completely takes away the pass to Schwartz on the far side, so instead, Stevenson decides to take the shot himself, and it is a rifle into the far side, right off the far bar, kind of midway up under the blocker hand and into the net to give the Kraken the 3-1 lead. For Stevenson, he just continues to put up points here in the back half of the season, and a lot of his goals have come on odd man rushes or breakaways off miscues from the opposing team, and that's just what happens here. And then it all happens again about 4 minutes later, after another failed power play for the Kraken. This time they get the full 2 minutes and still don't really make much of anything happen with it. A couple shots on net. They don't give up anything shorthanded, but against a pretty bad Sharks penalty kill, you'd expect a little bit more. That would continue to be a problem as we get into the third, but back at 5-on-5, it's another Sharks miscue. This time, Jaden Schwartz is the one that takes advantage of it, and it is a nice outlet pass up into the neutral zone, tape to tape for the Sharks, getting things going the right direction. But then the receiving end of that, the guy who gets the puck, number 3, I can't remember who exactly that is off the top of my head, but either way, he goes for a no-look backhand pass, throwing it up into the neutral zone to keep that breakout going for the Sharks, right in front of the Kraken bench. But the big problem with no-look backhand passes, or just no-look passes in general, while you're on the breakout and standing on your own blue line, is if you don't know for sure that there isn't an opposing player right there to receive that pass and take it back the other way, you can end up in some trouble. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. As Schwartz is right there, he says, "Thank you very much," takes the puck, goes right past him, between him and the Kraken bench. On his way into the Sharks' end of the ice with the puck freely, he gets off the breakaway shot, and it is an absolute bullet into the back of the net, so fast that hardly anyone other than one Kraken fan with a tentacle right behind the net, and the person running the goal light knew that it ended up in the back of it. I suppose also the ref saw the netting and points at it right away. Heck, I think even Schwartz himself had to go around behind the net and make sure that he saw the puck to be sure that he did end up getting it in. Sure enough, it just went in and lodged in the padding there in the back of it, but it's in there so quickly that hardly anyone really knew. All the same, though, Schwartz's team leading 24th of the season, and for the Kraken, now second unassisted goal in a row, makes it 4-1 for the Kraken. Schwartz also, after checking that the puck was in the net himself, as he's passing by, I don't know if he just saw the handout from the ref and just wires got crossed, or if he was just trying to be funny, but he gives the ref a little high five and, fist bump on the way past as he goes to celebrate with the teammates pretty quickly. As the game's starting to get out of hand, they tend to tone down the celebrations a little bit. They go to the bench, high five line, and also Georgiev goes to the bench as the Sharks make a change in net. That wouldn't stop the Kraken, though, late in the third from making it 5-1. And once again, it's Jared McCann. Another rush play, this time a pass up to right as he gets into the offensive end. And with a couple of Sharks players right up in his face, as he closes in on the net, he realizes he probably isn't going to have a very good shot. So instead, he does a quick little pass back to McCann, who does have all the time and space in the world that he wants. And sure enough, as he bears down on the net, he fires off the shot from in tight and puts it right under the glove, over the pad, and into the near side of the net to give the Kraken the 5-1 lead. McCann, his second of the game and 20th of the season, as he is now the third Kraken player this season to reach the 20-goal mark. And for McCann, his fourth straight season reaching that mark and beyond. Well, not beyond quite yet this season, but 20-plus goals all 4 seasons in a Seattle jersey. Which, real quick, as far as that's concerned, well, yeah, as we know, his goal scoring has been a bit down this season from where it was at least the last 2 seasons. He does have it's already for a while now been a career high in assists with his 38th in this game, and now closing in once again on 60 points on the season, currently sitting at 58. And while the playoff season he did have 70, and that might be a little bit much to ask for, it's not completely crazy to think that he could do it, especially considering he does now have 6 points in the last 2 games. Actually, one more fun fact here about McCann's assist totals, and then I promise we'll get back to the game. But as I was looking at his numbers just to make sure I had everything right, I noticed that not only is this season by far and away now his career high in assists with 38, each season he's been with the Kraken, he has gotten a new career high. He had 23 the first season, which by 2 was his career high at that point. Then he goes to 30 the next season when they made the playoffs with the 40-goal season. Again, a career high, then 33 last year. Again, career high, and now 38 this season. We see where that trend is going. And with some of these young players coming up, especially as he plays more with Shane Wright, he's played a lot with Matty Beniers, and they're going to continue making progress in their game. It's not impossible that he could end up with another career high again next year as he surpasses, well, I'd expect he probably surpasses 40 this season, but maybe even pushes 50 assists next year. And as that trend continues over the next few years of his career, by the time he's, say, Ovechkin's age, he should be pushing 100 assists a season. Right? That's definitely how it's going to work. As long as he stays with the Kraken, he'll get more assists every season. Doesn't matter how old he gets. At least for now, though, he's not even 30 and won't be for another couple seasons, so still plenty of realistic runway to put up some assist numbers and even more goal numbers for the Kraken in the next year or two that he's at least under contract with the team, and then hopefully, at least for me anyway, hopefully he stays, assuming things keep going the way that they have been. Getting back to the game, though, with the Kraken leading 5-1 late in the second, if 4-1 wasn't already enough, if 2-1 wasn't already enough the way that the court has been playing in this game, you knew 5-1 was basically the end of the game. We go to the third period, and the Kraken do give the Sharks a chance to get back into things with an immediate power play, and then with 40 seconds left in that power play, another power play on top of it. So, yeah, about 40 seconds of 5-on-3, which the Sharks do get a couple of good chances off, and really probably should have scored on the last one right before it goes back to a normal 5-on-4 power play. I think it was Eklund that just misses an empty net, with Decord having no chance on a nice cross pass. Again, the Kraken down 2 players. As long as the Sharks can go tape to tape, they're going to get a chance or two like that. Decord had made one pretty nice save on a similar play. This one, though, was even better. Wasn't going to give him a chance, but Eklund just misses the empty net. Might have put it off the outside of the net, but either way, the Kraken survive that and then do kill off the remaining 5-on-4 that follows. And then they end up with 4 minutes of power play of their own as Tolvanen gets cut under the eye by a high stick. So the Kraken with a double minor, a chance to finally do something on the power play, and don't. Which, I guess at that point you're already up 5-1. You're up 4 goals. So maybe they just didn't want to run it up. But I kind of feel like you just need to practice the power play. And I don't really think it was that they were not trying to score so much as they just couldn't on a power play that has been hot and cold, but mostly cold all season long. At least in fairness to this double minor power play at the end of the game, the rest of the power plays earlier on when they didn't have a 4-goal lead do not have the same excuse, but during both of these 2 power plays here in the third period, they did look pretty dangerous and had a number of very good opportunities, but just got stonewalled by some good goaltending from Romanov in net, taking over for Georgiev there late in the second. So at least they probably deserved to score on this power play, still couldn't find a way to make it happen. Not that it really matters. They don't really ever let the Sharks get another good chance to score the rest of the game. And then eventually frustration boils over as we get into the back half of the third, and chaos starts erupting. Some late hits, some questionable hits, though I don't think anything really pushing over into the category of dirty per se. A couple of just unfortunate ways that hits play out do lead to some pushing and shoving. It was nice to see the Kraken coming to the defense of their teammates. Dunn takes an awkward hit into the boards that Larson immediately comes in. I think that was even early on in the third, immediately comes into his defense. Then we see Asiamont take a weird hit. Kraken right away to his defense. Eventually you've got Alexiak getting thrown out of the game well, not thrown out of the game, but he gets a misconduct with less than 10 minutes left, so effectively ends his night. Then John Hayden ends up with a misconduct. That ends his night. We do get a fight between Tolvanen and I can't remember who, but fairly even fight, 50-50. I'd let people who are more into the hockey fights decide who won that one. I think Tolvanen does take him to the... Well, not quite takes him to the ice, but eventually Tolvanen seems like he has the upper hand, so they just kind of come in and break it up. So, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. The things just get a bit chaotic and rough towards the end of the game, and the Kraken eventually get the 5-1 victory when the final horn goes. So again, for the Kraken, this is a game where they kind of just take care of business against a significantly worse opponent, one that they should have been taking care of business earlier on in the season when that business actually mattered. Now we're at a point where this is only for the morale and confidence of the team to know that they can beat these teams that they should be able to beat. Not that that should have ever been in question, but I'm sure that nonetheless it's still playing in the back of their head that they did lose those back-to-back games earlier on the season, which should just serve as anything, if anything, as more incentive to play well in this one and not just look past the Sharks. Though when you play them 2 games in a row, I don't know how you really look past them since you're looking past them to them, but again, those 2 games will live as a frustrating time in Kraken history for as long as we remember them, which could be a while. For the Kraken, though, they play pretty well, and aside from the back half of the first period and the way that the game started, yeah, they played the way that you would expect against the Sharks team that is, well, this Sharks team. I mean, Macklin, Celebrini, and that line looked quite good and definitely got some chances, especially during the first period when the Kraken were kind of just letting the Sharks have their way offensively, but Decord was able to keep all of that out of the net. For the Kraken, as far as the young players that we're kind of focusing on and watching how they play here towards the end of the season, the Beniers line was fantastic in this game. They don't end up on the score sheet, but not for lack of trying. They were very, very good all night long. Beniers put at least one off the post. He had a very nice play. I think it was in the third period, though. Maybe it was actually in the second. I think late in the second period, I want to say, where he works through 3 or 4 Sharks players in their own end of the ice to get to an open spot in the middle of the slot, fires off the shot, but just, puts it off the bar. It goes out. Shane Wright had a similar look, though not one where he necessarily beat 3 or 4 defenders to get it, but set himself up in a good spot to get a pass. Fired off a shot that again goes off the bar and stays out. So the Kraken, young players getting some of those chances. Wright did at least get an assist, a primary on McCann's goal that did make it 5-1. A nice little drop pass there to set McCann up for his second of the game. And yeah, Capo Caco, a big part of that line. Yanni Newman spent most of the game with the Beniers Caco line, and once again that young line looked pretty good together. As Schwartz, back from injury, spent the game with Stevenson and Eberle. And then there's the right line, which I think earlier on I said it was Stevenson with McCann and Burakovsky, but it's right centering McCann and Burakovsky. And true to what I said earlier, that was easily the best line in my eyes on the ice in this game. They do get on the board 3 times. The goal for McCann and Burakovsky at the start, and then McCann again at the end. Wright only ends up with the 1 point out of it. McCann gets 3, Burakovsky 2. But that line was fantastic. They got the Kraken going in the first and finished things off in the second. If it wasn't, I still would say they're the best line, though certainly the Beniers line played almost to par with them. They just couldn't get it to convert into points. Meanwhile, you had the Stevenson line with Schwartz and Eberle that they had a bit more of an up and down night, but they do convert on those 2 unassisted goals midway through the second that pull the Kraken really away in this game. So still finding ways to contribute, even though it wasn't quite as dominating a performance as a couple of the other lines the Kraken had out there. And aside from all that, I don't think there's really much more that needs discussing in this game. Again, it is the Sharks, so there's only so much you can really take away. This should be a better team next year, and going forward, they're only going to get better, which isn't a high bar coming out of this season. But this is a team that is starting to get some of those pieces. Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini look quite good and will be a pain in the Kraken's side for a long time to come, as well as whoever they get with one of the likely top 2 picks, or maybe they drop down to a 3rd spot in this draft. Worst case scenario for them. But yeah, it's a Sharks team that will be getting better pretty quickly. So the Kraken would have been nice if they could have taken a little bit more advantage of them while they were completely down in the dumps. Either way, for now, the Kraken take care of business. I suppose Riker Evans, it's been a bit tough for him lately, did have a good game, as you would kind of hope he would against a team like the Sharks, especially where the rest of the Kraken roster pretty much takes care of business on top of it. But I think that brings us to the Kraken 3 stars, as always brought to you by the patrons over on Patreon. If you want to help decide 3 stars for the last few games of the season, or be a part of deciding the team channel awards at the end of it, you can help support a little bit more than you already are by watching at this point, which I'd already appreciate, by going to the link down below and supporting on Patreon as well. With the first star, it's got to be Jared McCann for me. 3 points on the game, 2 goals and an assist. The Kraken just scored too much to have the chance at the empty net, though he did have a few more pretty good chances, just a 5-on-5 to get the hat trick. It doesn't happen for him this time, but McCann, 2 great games in a row as he's really caught fire here at the end of the season and is starting to get some of those goals that we are, well, let's be honest, kind of hoping would have started happening a little bit more in January than April, but I suppose better late than never, and it's fun to watch. For the second star, I'm going to go with Joey Daccord. Sure, they didn't need him to be as good as he was in this game, with them scoring 5 on the Sharks and chasing their goaltender, but Daccord looks pretty sharp right now. He looks a lot more like the Daccord that we saw for the majority of the season, and is starting to come out of whatever funk he had after that Four Nations break. Seems like he's, I don't know, maybe it was the little bit of extra break that he's gotten with Grubauer getting the starts every now and then has helped, or the Kraken starting to have a couple days off here and there that give them more natural breaks. Either way, Daccord has looked very strong now for 2 straight games. And although this is not a great Sharks team, they do have some pretty dangerous offensive talent, young offensive talent, that can give a goaltender all that they can ask for, and Daccord did have to make some pretty good saves in this game. Then for the third star, I think there's any number of different guys you could go with, but personally, I gotta go with Andrei Burakovsky. He has had, like Stevenson, for the first half of the season was terrible, and for Burakovsky, that just kind of continued into, really even into February. Things were not going great for him, but while Stevenson got it turned around kind of at the new year, 2025 has been good for him, while 2024, at least for the Kraken, 2024 was terrible, and then he got it turned around in January. It took longer for Burakovsky, but he has been really good here over the last 3 weeks, really since the trade deadline. And again, yeah, it's kind of frustrating that it took that long, but if he is going to be part of the team next year, they don't try to trade him in the offseason or whatever happens. Hopefully this is some momentum that he can carry over into next season and get things going off on the right foot. Hopefully this finally is him returning to form after those injuries that really derailed things after the midway point of his first season with the Kraken. And either way, just looked fantastic in tandem with especially McCann, but also with Wright on that line in the last couple of games, but especially again in this one. But of course, as always, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below, who your 3 stars of the game would be, how you feel about this game for the Kraken. Again, if you're just on full tank, you wish the Kraken would lose regardless of who they're playing, that's a perfectly valid opinion to have right now. Or if you're just happy, like I am, to see the Kraken at least split the season series with the Sharks, even if it means that they'll have to lose a couple more games if they want to catch back up in this whole draft order business. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and until next time, which will be the first half of the 12th and thankfully final back-to-back of the season, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.